the midst of a huge transformation where our peers, communities, and workplaces are all really melding into one. Welcome to Reimagining Company Culture. My name is Christina Giordano, she, her, and hers, and I am the Senior Partnerships Manager here at AllVoices. Today, I am super excited to welcome our next guest onto the interview series, Jennifer Strauel. She is the Chief People and Diversity Officer at Arrivia. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. If you want to share a little about yourself for our listeners, including your pronouns, and when you were younger, do you remember how you answered the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Great question, and thanks for having me. Excited to be here with you today. So from a pronouns perspective, she, hers, and her. A little bit about me. I have lived kind of all over the country. So I grew up in Connecticut, lived in Arizona, then lived in the great state of Kentucky for a little while. And I say a fun fact is the governor of Kentucky made me an actual Kentucky colonel while I was there for work I did at the university. So that's a little fun fact about me, but I've been in human resources officially for about 13 years. And before that held various roles in business, have a business degree from Arizona State University, and then my master's from Eastern Kentucky University in integrated communications. I'm the mom of two kids, officially not teenagers anymore. My son turned 20 this past weekend, and my daughter's 22 and has her first job out of college officially. So that's an exciting parent moment there. As a child, the thing that I always wanted to be was a flight attendant. And so I just thought that was the most glamorous job as a kid, and you get to travel the world and everything, fascinated by airplanes. So it kind of makes a little sense that now I would eventually come and work for a travel company and get to travel as part of my job.
I love that. Travel is something that is really important to me as well. And I would love to kind of start from the beginning of our conversation and talk about company culture. How do you really think about measuring this dynamic thing of company culture, both from a qualitative and quantitative lens, knowing that it is super dynamic?
Absolutely, and super challenging for a lot of organizations that there are some qualitative measures that you can look at that absolutely we look at statistics and anonymous sources of information, whether that's our engagement survey scores from what our employees are telling us there. Turnover statistics is another way that we kind of measure the health of our culture of how many people are leaving us. That certainly says something about the culture. For us, we use agent promoter scores and net promoter scores to kind of assess how happy our customers are with the service. And that says something about how happy our employees are with the culture of the place they're working for. We also look at absenteeism, our PTO balances, when people aren't taking time off and things like that. They tend to have a culture that maybe says, I need to work all the time instead of refreshing and relaxing and disconnecting. We look at 360 reviews, exit interview results, and the number of employee referrals we get for our open positions. That says a lot about our culture. And then qualitatively, the touchy-feely stuff that we're really looking at is observation and talking to people. So what are we getting from focus groups that we're doing or from time that we're spending as leaders out in our facilities across the world and just getting to know people? What's the mood in each office? How many nominations do we get for peer recognition? And what's the participation in our company events? So those are really the indicators of culture that we look at to say, how are we doing?
Absolutely. It sounds like it's a very holistic perspective, not just looking at one metric or, asking how employees feel and are experiencing the culture one time throughout their experience at Arrivia as well. As a people leader, you're also the Chief Diversity Officer as well at Arrivia. And we know that there are different folks at different parts of their career and also at different parts of their kind of diversity, equity, and culture journey too. Where would you say kind of the Arrivia organization is, and where would you want to be aspirationally in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, and culture overall?
As an organization, I would put us fairly early in our journey, even though as a company, our roots go back more than 20 years
Wow.
as an entrepreneurial organization. But really, just in the past 2 years, have we acquired two other companies and really come together and built one company culture and are really growing up as an organization. So we're saying now, yeah, creating that aspirational culture of care is what we're wanting to do. So we've developed new core values and have really made those come to life over the course of the last 2 years, and done things like creating a culture committee, creating a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, and getting people who are really passionate about those things to guide us on that journey, to make us just a great place to be for everyone, no matter where they are in their career, no matter what background that they've come from, that they all come here and say, I can contribute to my fullest. And this is a company that supports that.
Yeah, I mean, that's helpful to understand kind of the evolution of the organization and keeping a pulse on what's happening and empowering people to do their best work when they join Arrivia as well. And we've seen a lot of changes in terms of company culture overall throughout different workplaces, and also the role of culture conduits or leaders, managers also change over time. In your experience in people and human resources, how have you seen the role of senior leaders or managers really change, especially over the last year?
Absolutely. That change has accelerated exponentially over the last, 18 months to 24 months, probably, that it has always been evolving, but it's really been a revolution in the types of leadership that are called for now and what is kind of expected of leaders nowadays that just wasn't that way before. So really, the job's gotten much broader. It is much more emotionally taxing, and we've seen that leaders are expected, now to show care for the whole person and not just the worker, and to be able to help people when they're struggling with mental health. We've seen a lot of that in the past year. So they're really a mental health first aid provider as a leader. They're a giver of resources. They're in a lot of ways a life coach and a social connection. As people have been working from home and had been isolated throughout the pandemic, sometimes their leader might be the only support person that they have in a lot of cases. So a
Mhm.
leader's been asked to do a lot more things, to change and lead people virtually, where before it was very much an in-office, in-person environment. So now they're leading people they might not have ever met personally before in person, or in countries that they've never been to. We have a lot of cross-border leadership now that we didn't have before. So really, employees as well are speaking up and asking for more and asking for what they need. And that's about flexibility and different styles of leadership and more personalized support. So that really has changed kind of the dynamic between leaders and team members, and required more out of our leaders.
Mm-hmm. Digging in kind of deeper to the role of leaders has been really important as a critical support system in an employee's life inside and outside of work, and especially managers too. You might not be talking to Jennifer every day, but you are communicating with your manager on a regular basis. And some folks say, I want to be that kind of piece of the support system for folks. I want to raise my hand to be a manager from an individual contributor, but it is hard. It's a completely different job. Can you tell me about kind of Arrivia's investment and resources of managers and what it looks like for new managers specifically?
Absolutely. We've done a lot this year in trying to prepare our leaders for this new reality that they're facing and help them on their journey, as well as to develop our emerging leaders that have an interest in leadership or maybe stepping up and taking their first leadership role. So we've done things like do mental health first aid training and certify some of our leaders as mental health first aid providers. We've done virtual sessions on things like managing a virtual workforce or dealing with emotions or crisis or social unrest, things like that, to really equip our managers with that. We've done various leadership programs and personality profiles and helping understand type and teams and doing internal team buildings and trainings. We have mentorship programs, 360-degree reviews. We've sent our leaders to external trainings and conferences. And then we're building a new manager toolkit kind of as we speak, that gives them everything that they need to be a leader here. So the very basics of things like how do we manage time and what are our policies and procedures and handbooks, but then also the culture that we're creating and how do we want you to support that and be the boots on the ground for it. And then how can we help you as leaders? What resources are available to you when you're struggling or when you have a situation that you are unsure what to do? Here's the support system that you have behind you.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of different resources. And again, not just kind of one resource available or training for folks as well, really looking 360 degrees on how you can equip people to have these conversations. I love the example you gave with the mental health first aid practitioners or providers too, because some of the conversations that might come up are really difficult or challenging to navigate. And especially when you build trust with someone too. And in terms of kind of thinking about the full person outside of work, no one checks their identity or lived experiences at the door. In terms of equity and inclusion, how is arrivia really intentionally not perpetuating trauma that happens externally in the world, internally at the company?
This is a constant journey for us as an organization, for us as human beings. So it is a constant journey that really starts with that desire to get better every single day, and be supported by our core values, which are stay curious. So be curious about the people in the world around you and learn more every single day, keeping it real, which is about having open, honest dialogue and discussions and talking about the hard things or being uncomfortable and being vulnerable there, owning it, really taking accountability and saying people's experience here is all about what we create and what we do. And then winning together is our other core value. So it's about every single person. So first is that recognition, and the communication and all the things that we're doing around that and modeling that behavior as senior leaders, for everybody. So that's one of the things. Then we've been doing a lot to build awareness and start dialogues and have tough conversations. So some of the great things that we've done recently is we have panel discussions where they are virtual events and everyone in the company is invited. We invite internal panelists who have a real passion about a topic. So we did some for Martin Luther King Day. And so we picked some quotes from Dr. King and we had discussions about race and different pressures in society and different people's experiences and gave them a broad forum to share those and to start a dialogue in educating other people about that, but in bringing us together as an organization. We did some similar discussions around International Women's Day and had panels of women, and then we had mixed gender panels as well. So we're doing things to just broaden awareness. We have special months that we're celebrating every single month this year. So we've picked a different topic each month. April is World Religions Month for us because it's a place where Easter and Ramadan and Passover are all converging.
Yeah.
And we have people across the globe and in every location celebrating all of those things. So really educating the organization on what are each of those holidays, what are all the religions. So we're doing more things like that. We do book clubs. So we did those for International Women's Day, and we had one for men called Good Guys, and they read the Good Guys book on how men can be better allies to women in the workplace. And then we had male leaders facilitate a discussion group on those. So those are some of the things that we've started doing, and then we are going to be doing company-wide training on things like unconscious bias and just how to recognize that and good interviewing techniques. So that kind of helps not, perpetuate some of the stereotypes that are out there, or make sure people aren't experiencing things like microaggressions and just unintentional yet poorly impactful treatment in our workplace here.
Yeah, it's multiple pieces, a multi-pronged approach to really that education piece, intentional strategic programming, creating that space to have conversations as well, and really sharing your storytelling. I think that is so critical too, especially when you have folks across different geographies with different experiences really coming to one place. And I definitely believe that the workplace is a microcosm of society as well. And when we're talking about kind of getting to that step of having these conversations, either with your manager or at one of these forums or programs, trust is really, really important. And I know a lot of organizations talk about having an open door policy, and we talked about the changing role of leaders. I think HR and people teams have also evolved over time. Historically, employees have been really hesitant to go to HR or seen it as the principal's office. I'd love to ask from your experience, what are some methods you use to really build trust within the organization and encourage folks to not only talk about negative or constructive feedback, but positive feedback and anything in between?
Yeah, and it's a multi-prong approach, and it is one of those things as well, that it's little things over time that are going to build that trust. It is not one major initiative or anything like that. So it is the small things that we're building that in. So we rolled out an HR business partner model here, where we assign an HR person to a particular population in the organization, whether that's a department or a location or whatnot, so that they can be there and attend team meetings and go to team building events that group has, and really become an extension of that team. So that helps deepen those relationships, and they're there in the good moments, and they're there to celebrate things. So it isn't just that HR police and, oh no, HR's coming,
Yeah.
kind of relationship. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We have all of the other things in place too, for multiple channels, so people can engage the way they feel comfortable. We have an anonymous ethics hotline, so any kind of complaints or problems can be reported to a third party and get looked into that way. So they certainly can use that avenue. We do constant surveys, whether it's inclusion surveys, rewards and recognition, employee engagement, so that we get that feedback, and we do those anonymously, and we show people that they are anonymous. They can come over and sit with us and look and see that we can't see, even on the back end, who they are, because there's a lot of that survey scare, like, really, is it really anonymous? So we have become much more transparent with people in that, and then we've acted on what they've said. And I think that's the biggest builder of trust, is we say what we're going to do, and we actually do that. We listen to you, we take action based on what you've said. So those are things. We've also created many more committees now than we've ever had before, so that it is more grassroots efforts on a lot of things, and it truly is the voice of our employees. We're getting ready to launch something called AIM, which for us is All Ideas Matter, so that people can, again, have another way to give their ideas and to speak up. But we also do company-wide town halls, in which we do fun things too, like play games and have trivia questions for the leaders, and they can guess things like, where's the first place we went on an airplane, or just really humanizing leaders, so that we're not some scary people, or they're afraid to talk to us or anything. So we do a lot of that to build trust.
Yeah, you're right. That trust doesn't just happen overnight or you will it to happen. It's these acts over time and really intentionally building those relationships with employees, demonstrating that you are actively listening. And you talked about AIM and the different committees that were kind of formed as well. And business as usual in terms of people and talent strategies has been out the window for the past 2, maybe 3 years now. And I would love to ask if you have any kind of examples of how arrivia has innovated in any of these spaces, whether it's positive, whether it's policies or strategies. I know you shared a couple examples already, but always like to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the unique things about Arrivia as a travel company is clearly we offer benefits that go beyond traditional employee perks. So we have a lot of travel benefits so people can go and experience other cultures and experience the globe. So that's a huge thing. And we've expanded our travel benefits over the recent year as well. But then to encourage them to take use of those travel benefits, we also moved to unlimited PTO for all corporate employees this year. So we have unlimited time off to, again, model that for us as leaders that we need to unplug, and so do our employees. We introduced volunteer time off this year. And so every employee gets 8 hours of paid time off all across the globe, top to bottom, to volunteer for the charities of their choice. So that's really important that we give back to the communities that we're in. And that's something that our employees had asked for as well. And then going down kind of the DEI route, we also wanted to be more inclusive in our employee benefits this year. So we introduced a whole slew of things on that front. We put in adoption assistance this year, infertility treatment, gender reassignment surgery coverage under our medical plans, flexible family building benefits that allow people to have a family in non-traditional ways, and the company sponsoring some of that. We revamped our rewards and recognition programs. So we have a great program where every year we take our top performers in the company on a trip. So we're taking them on a 7-day all-inclusive cruise this year. So super exciting kind of things that are just different, and really leading the market. We put in paid parental leave here in the United States. So we're going above and beyond what's required by law, what even our employees' wildest dreams were at the beginning of the year. We said, we're going to exceed all of that and do even more. So I think that's really helping, again, says something about our culture transformation and what we're looking to do, but also talks about the whole person and something for everybody in our benefits package.
Absolutely. I love the gift of time as well. One of the most valuable resources for unlimited PTO, and having some of the benefits and rewards you're talking about really be related to the mission and the vision of Arrivia as well. And I'm sure one of the reasons why people join the organization because they're so passionate about that too. I know in preparation for our interview, I was reading through your bio, and you have over 25 years of experience in human resource leadership roles and in the industry itself. Are there still kind of common mistakes you're seeing companies making in their people and talent strategy, even with the best intentions? Of course, not asking you to name any names, just cautionary tales.
Yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes. None of us are perfect, certainly. But I think, where companies tend to go wrong with a people strategy is focusing too much on the money, whether that's on just compensation of employees. And they're saying, well, if we pay them enough, nothing else matters. They're here for the money and for a paycheck. That's just misguided in today's world. Or same thing, focusing too much on cost savings or just on revenue production. The financial piece just isn't what's driving people anymore. So companies who focus too much on that are just really missing out on the human element. And whenever you're good to your people, they're going to be good to your customers, and the money's naturally going to come from that. So I think that's where employers are going wrong. Also, in asking for feedback from employees, many companies ask, they do tons of surveys, they do tons of focus groups, but then they don't act on that or follow up with people. And so that's one of the quickest ways to lose trust is you're asking me what I want, and then you're not doing that. So why do you keep asking?
Exactly. Why do I keep telling you?
Yeah, yep. I'm going to stop telling you eventually, or I'm just going to leave because you really don't care. So it's just words and it's not backed up by actions from the organization. So I think those are some of the things. The other big one where I see people miss is letting the fear of talking about things that might be uncomfortable or negative. They let that fear kind of stop them from doing things. So they're afraid to have a tough conversation, or they're afraid to take a stance on a social issue. So whether that's racism or violence that's going on in the world, or wars or things, they're so afraid to offend somebody that they do nothing. So I think those are the real things where I see other companies just missing the boat right now.
Yeah, I think that is really important to remember too, just because it's uncomfortable or you don't have all of the answers, not to shy away from those conversations. And really that follow-up element when you ask someone for feedback and you're having a conversation, make sure that you are demonstrating you are actively listening, because the odds that someone is going to provide that feedback in the future if you don't are slim to none. Jennifer, is there anything that I didn't ask in our conversation today that you want to share with folks who are listening, or maybe underscoring a couple key takeaways you hope people bring with them?
I think the biggest takeaway, that I would like people to have is just it's okay to start wherever you are and start with the people that are ready and with yourself. And that will start a movement within your organization. So you may be the only one saying something right now, but if you go out, you're going to find some allies, and then you can build something and make these little changes that are going to turn into something great in a very short period of time. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Like, we've done a tremendous amount of things in the past year and put in lots of new benefits and done lots of things around DEI, and it hasn't cost us hardly anything. So I think that's what I would like people to kind of leave with, is start where you are and you can have a big impact.
I love that. It's a good call to action. Start where you are. It's never too early or too late to begin that process as well. Jennifer, thank you so much for being on Reimagining Company Culture this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, and as a reminder for folks who are listening, at AllVoices, we really believe in employers and employees being seen, heard, and understood. And we know that it's a requirement for the business to succeed overall. Have a great rest of your afternoon, everyone.